There's a doctor. Just because I was born in a sty, that doesn't make me a pig. Cody Brock. Jumping Jack Flash brought the Cadillac around to the front of the mall. One of the volunteers had gone into a drugstore in the mall and gotten bandages and more alcohol, and liberated some oxycodone tablets from the pharmacy, so the wound was bound up and Brown's pain was somewhat alleviated. Then they gently loaded Farmer Brown into the back seat. He was conscious and coherent. Bells was speaking to someone on his cell phone, and once Brown was in the car, he closed the phone. "You keep in touch and you let me know what's going on," he told Cody. "Use my 2387 number. It will have to be in the clear, but fuck it. I just got off the phone with Brigade. There are running battles going on now all across Seattle between us and renegade fatties. Lot of people hit on all sides, including bystanders. The cop was right about the hospitals. They're madhouses, and there's been some shooting in emergency rooms when both sides bring their wounded in." Even as they spoke, Cody could hear the rattle of small arms and the occasional crump of a grenade in the distance. "Oh, there's a password now. Ragnarok. That should get you past any of our people you come across who want to know why you're riding around with guns. If they've been told about the password, that is. Now move out." He leaned into the car. "Donnie, we got a job to do for the cause, or you know I'd take you myself. But these great kids of ours are going to take care of you." "I know the way," said Cody. "Jack, you ride shotgun. Nightshade, you stay in the back with Farmer and let me know happens if he starts bleeding again. Let's go." "Where exactly are we going?" asked Emily as they pulled out of the mall. "And there isn't any way to get over there from here except on I-90, which is where we're most likely to run into fatties. I'm going the most direct route, since time is of the essence here. Get ready to hold Farmer steady in case I have to try and outrun or bust through something. Jack, you get ready to fire in case we have to bop our way out of a situation." "Got it," said the Englishman who had folded in the stock of his AK-74. Cody drove down 5 blocks and got onto Highway 908, the Mercer Slaw Park on his left, and then up an entrance ramp onto I-90. Right at the top of the ramp they passed a burning Fatpo truck and an overturned Humvee, with several uniformed federal bodies lying on the asphalt. There was no sign of any of the NVA or SS who might have been responsible for the attack. Traffic was very light and they made it to Mercer Island with no mishaps and down onto East Mercer Way. "What if the doctor isn't in?" asked Farmer. "Then we go find him and bring him back," said Cody with determination. "This is actually better for you than some emergency room, Farmer. Dr. Shipman's got part of his house in the front set up as an office and a kind of a little clinic for his private patients. I saw it when Kelly had her pool party, that time I told you about when I ended up tossing that asshole Crabtree in the pool. It's got an examining room and all kinds of medical equipment, an x-ray machine, drugs and supplies, the whole 9 yards. Kelly told me that he sees a lot of celebrities and politicians privately, treating their AIDS or other loathsome diseases, drug ODs, that kind of thing. Kind of a physician to the hoi polloi, so you'll be getting the best." They pulled up to the large wrought iron gate, which led into the Shipman's exclusive housing community. Cody reached out to the automatic control panel, punched in a code, and then when a mechanical voice asked for verbal confirmation, he stuck his head out the window and said, "Kelly Shipman, guest. All the world's a stage." The gates rumbled and began to swing open. My, we're cozy enough with the homecoming queen to have her entry code to the palace, are we?" said Nightshade waspishly. "Done this before?" "No, she gave it to Craig Crabtree and he couldn't resist bragging about it in gym," explained Cody. "That and their little get-togethers in the Shipman's pool house," he added with a sigh. "Did you ever do Miss Shipman the courtesy of telling her about the Bounder's unconscionable conduct?" asked Jack curiously. "The Arabs have a proverb, 'There is danger to him who snatcheth the tiger's cub, but more to him who snatcheth delusion from a woman,'" answered Cody. "Point taken," said Jack. "And what's that supposed to mean?" asked Emily archly from the back seat. "No disrespect, comrade, but women do have a nasty habit of shooting the messenger," said Jack. "That to a girl sitting behind you with an M16? asked. "We need to keep an eye out as we drive through here," said Cody. "I think they've got some kind of private security guards who patrol the area to keep riffraff like us out." I wonder if these rich people who are so loyal to America ever notice how much time and effort they have to spend in protecting themselves from America," said Brown. "How you feeling, farmer?" asked Cody. "Not so bad with that dope you gave me," replied Brown. "This hole in my hand just feels like a bad sprain right now." "We've got more if you need it, sir," said Jack. "No, I don't want to end up getting hooked on painkillers," replied Brown. "Is there a house in here that goes for under $2 million? Sniffed Nightshade. You live in a neighborhood that's just as ritzy," pointed out Cody. "And your house is just as plush as Kelly's." "Yeah, but my dad was a criminal." "What's her excuse?" A minute later, they pulled up in the Shipman's driveway. The house lights were on, and all three vehicles were in the open carport, including Kelly's new Explorer. "Okay, I'll go first," said Cody. "You two follow along and bring Farmer." "If the quack has drugs in there, won't he have some kind of security system, closed-circuit television monitors?" asked Jack. "If only to prevent break-ins by addicts, that sort of lark?" "There is an alarm system, yes, and a panic room inside the house, but no cameras," said Cody. Kelly and Kelly's mom didn't like the big brother feeling of being constantly spied on by cameras. I asked about that when I was checking the place out in case we ever needed it for something like this. "Oh, is that what you were checking out?" asked Nightshade skeptically. "Not Kelly in a bathing suit?" Now Cody ignored her. "I've been here a few times, and Kelly's folks know me. They'll open the door for me. You can tell them you and Kelly have a date to go and watch the Revolution," said Nightshade. Cody got out of the Cadillac, reached back in and pulled the Makarov out of the holster of his web belt and stuck it into his belt behind his back. "One of you bring my belt, will you? I don't want whoever answers the door to see me wearing it if they look out first." He took his AK from Jack and went up the front walk to the door. He leaned his rifle against the corner of the door frame, out of sight. Then he rang the doorbell. After a short delay, Dr. Ed Shipman opened the door, dressed casually in shorts and a knit shirt and sandals. He looked distracted. "Oh, hello, Cody," he said. "I didn't know you were coming over. If you had a date or something with Kelly, she forgot to mention it. Look, I don't mean to be rude, but this isn't a good time. Not only is there apparently all kinds of rioting and shooting going on all over town, but we've got a bit of a family crisis on our hands, and I'm not here to see Kelly, Dr. Shipman," Cody said politely. "I'm here to see you. Yes. I'm afraid we need your help." "Medical help?" asked Kelly's father. Suddenly Shipman looked up as the three other volunteers appeared behind Cody. The bare-chested to stumble along, but he was leaning on Jack, and the bandages his hand were starting to drip red. Nightshade stood. Beside them with the M16 on her hip, Cody's web belt over her shoulder, rolled balaclava on her head, looking very revolutionary and determined. Cody reached down and took up his own Kalashnikov. He didn't point it. "Our friend has been shot. He needs your help," he told the flabbergasted Shipman. "Oh my God," he breathed. "You're one of them, so I've been told. But you've been a guest in my house," babbled Shipman in a daze. "You've been out with my daughter. We need to come in, sir," said Cody politely but firmly. "If we're seen standing out here and one of your neighbors makes a phone call, then you might end up having some visitors who are even more unwelcome than we are." As if to give point to his remarks, there was another sudden burst of machine gun fire, spluttering rifles, and several explosions possibly a half a mile away. "What are you going to do if I refuse, son?" demanded Shipman. "Are you going to shoot me?" Cody ignored the question. "We're wasting time, Dr. Shipman," he said. "Oh, Christ," sighed Shipman, accepting the inevitable. "The whole damned world has gone insane. Bring him in." They half-carried Brown into the house, down a hallway, and into Dr. Shipman's medical office. Shipman opened a folding partition into a room glass cabinets and a paper-covered examination table. "Lie down there, Mr. What's your name anyway? Or do I really want to know?" "They call me Farmer Brown." "What happened?" asked Shipman. "What the hell do you think happened?" growled Brown. "A political gangster with a federal badge shot me." "Yeah, well, this is the last job he'll ever do," said Brown. Shipman turned pale. "No, I was going to watch, but something came up, a family matter, and—" "Why, what did she say?" Well, I don't quite know how to tell you this, Dr. Shipman, but the Americans have surrendered, said Cody. We're going to get our republic, and you're standing in the middle of it. What? Shouted Shipman. What the hell do you mean the Americans have surrendered? You're an American yourself. Because I was born in a sty, that doesn't make me a pig, replied Cody evenly. Shipman shuddered. Okay, look, I'm not even going to try to wrap my mind around what you just said. I'll do what I can for this man, and then it would be nice if all of you would leave, and it would be even nicer if you'd leave without murdering anyone in this house. He went to a drawer, drew out some stainless steel scissors, and cut the bandages away. What did you do to him thus far? He demanded, studying the wound. Sterilized it with alcohol, said Brown. He's had 2 oxycodones, spoke up Emily. That's good, because otherwise he'd be screaming in agony and going into shock, said Shipman. I suppose a hospital is out of the question. Silly me. He examined the wound with a probe light on an otoscope. Good clean wound at least. Okay, the alcohol was a good move. It partially cauterized the injury and hopefully stopped any immediate infection. You had a stroke of luck in that it was through and through, and also that it seems to have missed the bone, although I'm going to have to x-ray it and make sure. There are no major arteries in the palm, although there's sure to be nerve damage, and I can't promise you that you'll have much use of the hand, not yet. I am going to apply a local anesthetic, do the x-ray, and then depending on what I see there, I'll pack it with antibiotic foam and put on a better dressing. I'll give you an antibiotic as well. The packing will hurt like hell, but we can't leave that hole open. The oxycodone will do for a while, but they're addictive as the devil. You need to take it down to Darwin or something lighter as soon as you can. Do you know your blood type? A negative, said Brown. You're sure? I'll need to top you up, and I don't want you going into shock. I'm sure, believe it or not, you're not the first person to come in here with a gunshot wound they want treated with discretion, although usually some eminent person who doesn't want the world to know what games he's been playing with sex and drugs and rock and roll. He took a file out of the drug cabinet and tore open the paper wrapping of a syringe. Ed, what's going on? Spoke up his wife Marty fearfully from the doorway. Who are these people? Cody? Hey, Mrs. Shipman, said Cody. I'm really sorry about this, but we need your husband's help. We don't want to be here any more than you want us here, and we'll be gone as soon as our friend has been seen to. Guns, she said, shrinking. Oh, Cody, I always thought you were one of the good and decent ones. He is, ma'am, said Brown from the table. That's why he's carrying a gun tonight. I don't understand. Which side are you on? Asked Marty, confused and upset. Oh, they've got us working for the other side tonight, marm, Jack Flash told her cheerily. Shipman injected the wounded area several times, making Brown wince. Lie back. We'll give that a minute or to take effect. He pulled a big wad of gauze off a roll and cut it with the scissors, then folded it up in a smaller roll. All right, one of you needs to put down your weapon. Come here and hold this down into the hand while I set up the x-ray machine. Don't worry, none of us will snatch up your gun and do a Bruce Willis. None of us would know what to do with one anyway. Kelly Shipman, calmly walking into the room. She was barefooted and wearing gym shorts and a sweatshirt, and was down her back and wet, as if she had just stepped out of the shower, which she had. She had been in the shower for almost 2 hours and finally accepted that she would never again be clean. Kelly, I think you need to go back upstairs, said Ed. I'll take care of this. I've helped you before, and I don't think any of our guests has had the hospital CNA course I went through, said Kelly. She did not look at Cody. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of anything anymore. She walked to the head of the table and took the roll of gauze from her father and molded it gently and firmly into Farmer Brown's gunshot wound to absorb the oozing blood and lymphatic fluid. Shipman went to his cabinet and began pulling out x-ray plates. Then she finally looked up at Jack Flash. I know Cody and Emily, but you I've never seen before, she said. You don't go to Hillside High, do you? No, I got my A-levels some time ago in the UK, said Jack. We call him Jumping Jack Flash, said Cody. The man you're working on is Farmer Brown. I know you won't believe this of any of us, but he's a good man and worthy of your help. I'm glad. I could do with meeting a good man today, she said quietly. It's the name I'm wanted under in Britain, yes, said Jack, with a David Niven-ish smile. What did you do in Britain? Asked Marty fearfully. Did you kill someone? Actually, I was a columnist for a student newspaper at Oxford, and one night, after a bit of a fracas with a West Indian policeman, I came back to the quad, quite bottled, got onto my laptop, and wrote an article which carried 10 years penal servitude under the Race Relations Act. I hit send, and staggered into bed to sleep it off. I was awakened the next morning by the special branch dragging me out of bed and kicking me with steel-toed shoes. In view of the fact that my copybook was now permanently blotted, I decided to come to this country where the racial resistance has taken on a more robust form. He drinks tea too, Emily informed them, with his pinky extended. Murder black people in your own country so you came here to do it? Snapped Dr. Shipman. Is that it? So you can lord it over in Washington? Moore replied with cool courtesy. In point of fact, Doctor, my reason for joining the NVA and helping to establish the Republic here is rather similar to the motivations of most foreign volunteers. We want help to go back to our own countries and fight against the same kind of Zionist regimes as those which broke my ribs with those steel-toed boots, and put the bullet in that man on your table. And what about you? Kelly asked Emily. I thought you were kidnapped and brutalized by these gentry a few weeks ago. You must have one hell of a case of Stockholm Syndrome. Yeah, that's it, said Emily. My code name is Patty Hearst. Death to the Zionist insect. Everybody's going batshit over the president's speech tonight. Looks like we're going to be living in the Fourth Reich soon, Dad. Better start learning how to click your heels, and I suppose I'd better quit calling you guys Spuckies. That's Mr. Spucky from now on, said Cody. What? You were serious? Said Shipman, staring incredulously. The President and the Congress are actually going to hand us over to you people? Simple, and there's a lot that has to happen still, but the process has begun, yes, said Brown. That's what all the about tonight. There are those who can't handle the idea, and they're refusing to go along. Then you can still be stopped, said Shipman desperately. Check the news from Eastgate Mall, said Brown. That was where I got this. It was we who stopped them tonight. Barely armed kids and blue-collar rednecks like me, the people you rich guys have spent your whole lives looking through like we didn't exist, until you needed us to fix your cars and your air conditioners and your toys. Outnumbered 3-1, and we beat the best America could put up. We wiped them out. We'll stop them again tomorrow, and as long as we have to, until every American soldier leaves our land and that goddamned red, white, and blue Masonic dish rag comes down forever in the Northwest. Hugo said, mightier than the tread of marching armies is the power of an idea whose time has come. Put in Jack leave, muttered Shipman. We'll get the hell out. We'll all go to California with Kelly. I hope not, sir, said Cody. The Republic is going to need you, all of you. Shipman sighed. Now's not the time or the place. He turned on the overhead light. Right, let's get you under that there. It took almost an hour for Shipman to perform the best repair job he could on Farmer Brown's bullet wound and transfuse him with a pint of whole blood and a pint of saline. As reluctant as I am to entertain you people in my home for any longer than necessary, he needs to rest for a couple of hours so I can monitor his condition, make sure he doesn't go into shock, and he can recover some of his strength. After that you can move him, but I really would recommend he get to a legitimate hospital as soon as he can, if that's possible. God knows what will be possible after tonight. Cody had spent the past 15 minutes talking with Joe Dortmunder on his cell. It may be more possible than you think, Dr. Shipman, he said after hanging up. What the hell's happening out there? Demanded Farmer Brown, lying on the table in his still wet cast. There's still a lot of fighting going on, and there have been a lot of casualties, including some of ours, Cody told him soberly. But the fatpos seem to be pulling in their horns, and they're scuttling back to their barracks. Apparently they honestly never expected we'd come out and face them, like that bunch tonight at the mall. Brigade is waiting on orders from the Army Council as to whether we start dropping mortar rounds and rockets on the barracks and stations, or whether that would be too much of a ceasefire violation. Anyway, after we left to come here, the captain got an idea. Instead of taking those fatty guns and vehicles off somewhere, He went back in and more or less took over Eastgate Mall himself, and one of our guys who knows electronics was able to fix that WKPR FM radio hookup so that it could broadcast again. He called the station and said if they didn't transmit what he was saying, they'd be getting a visit from the NVA, and they got the message and put bells on the air. He told the audience who were listening who he was and where he was, and what happened earlier tonight to those fatties who'd been ranting and raving on the air, and he said, "We got a lot of guns down here and those fatties ain't gonna need 'em anymore, so anyone who wants to join the NVA, come on down to Eastgate Mall." And guess what? Already we've signed on 100 new volunteers, even if it is almost midnight. We always had to recruit in secret before, but now that people know where to find us, looks like we'll have more than enough volunteers to create a genuine national army. Civil war instead of mere terrorism, moaned Shipman. Beautiful. I suppose you have some justification for all this, something about not being able to make an omelet without breaking eggs? What's the term you Brits came up with? I used to see it all the time on all the war monuments when I went to England. Dulce something Latin? Dulce et decorum est pro patria mori, corrected Jack Flash. How sweet and good it is to die for your country, which of course is a load of bollocks. Death is never sweet or good. And yes, with regard to those two pointless and stupid wars against our racial cousins in Germany, it was the old school lie. But sometimes, Doctor, worthwhile things can come of death. I happen to believe that this is worthwhile because I have seen what came of listening to the lies of the people who have sent Englishmen to die everywhere from the Somme to Anzio to Basra, always for the benefit of same alien race of thieves and liars. This time we are killing and dying for our own blood, and a homeland for all of us, sir. To me, that makes a difference, and I am willing— God, I love that accent, said Kelly with a smile. You should hear me emote Shakespeare, Miss Shipman. How now, you black and midnight hags, what is it you do? Look, I suppose I might as well make us all some supper, said Marty wanly. I promise none of us will run away or try to call the police. God knows I don't want this fighting to come to our house. I'll stay with Mr. Brown, said Shipman. You three go on and have something to eat, and Marty, could you bring in some soup for our patient? Kelly, he said, turning to his daughter. Dad, as all right as I'll ever be, she told him. Actually, this has been a therapeutic distraction for me. Besides, it in good with the new regime. You have, you know, said Cody. You too, Dr. Shipman. We won't forget this. I really do hope you'll reconsider leaving the Republic. It's to be a home for all of us, like Nigel said. After they left the surgery, Shipman stared after them. My God, they're just children. Even that English kid. He ought to be out sculling on the Serpentine or in some pub drinking warm beer and talking drunken undergraduate bullshit, not coming to a foreign country to commit murder and maybe die when he runs into someone who's a better shot than the one who plugged you. As to the others, high school, how can you lead boys like Cody to their death? Demanded Shipman roughly. Or that skinny little girl who thinks she's Patty Hearst and it's all some kind of giggly game? How can you live with yourself, knowing that you're destroying the lives of children, white children, since I know you don't care about black or brown ones? Brown sighed. I got nothing against black or brown children, any more than I have anything against rabbits or mice. But you can't let rabbits or mice run loose in your fields, or they'll destroy your crops and devour your grain while giving nothing in return, and then nobody eats. And Cody isn't a boy. He became a man the day he stood up and took on a man's work in life by striking a blow at the enemies who destroyed his family. No matter what you think of his choice, there's nothing wrong with becoming a man at 16. That's the way it used to be for many thousands of years before we got so damned civilized, and that's the way it needs to be again. But if you think we just use kids like Cody and Emily for cannon fodder, well, you're wrong. I'm not going to argue with you, but you're wrong. He was quiet for a time. They call me Farmer Brown because I used to have a farm once, 700 acres of prime wheat and sorghum and soybean in Latah, just outside Spokane. I had a son too. The bank took my farm and Iraq took my boy. And yeah, every day I collect a little on that debt from the pigs in human form who did that to me, and I enjoy every minute of it. That pleasure's the only one I've got left in life. I could get the farm back after we win the Republic, but what would be the point? No one to leave it to. But it's not just revenge. Revenge all on its own is nothing but a black hole you can never fill up. And I'm not so dumb or full of hate that I don't understand that. I'm a volunteer to make sure it never happens again. Do you think for 1 minute that after having buried my own son, I would ever lead Cody or anyone else into danger of death by gunfire, unless there was no other way to make things right with the world? I tried your way. I even ran for office before 10/22. None of the local television stations or newspapers would take my advertising. My campaign manager was beaten by hired goons. I was arrested on a phony charge of embezzling campaign funds, and I still won. So my opponent simply went scuttling to a Jewish federal judge and had the result thrown out. We use bullets now, not ballots. Bullets work. Ballots don't unless you count them yourself. You can't order the future all nice and neat with a gun, said Shipman. Yeah, I know that too. But I can try. I can do what little I can, and if enough of us just do what little we can, well, maybe we can't make sure everybody gets a winning hand 100 and 200 years from now, but at least we can reshuffle the deck. Shipman sighed and slumped into a chair. After a while, Brown said, By the way, thanks. Mrs. Shipman managed to whip up a passable meal of microwave bean casserole, hot dogs, and salad, which the volunteers wolfed down. Kelly declined to eat anything and went into the den where she turned on the TV and watched the raging news commentary and reports of violence around Seattle. After Cody had finished eating, Marty tapped him on the arm. Cody, may I speak to you privately? It's about Kelly. They went into the living room and sat down in a corner on a sofa, Cody uncomfortably lugging his Kalashnikov along. I'm apologize for the shooting iron, Mrs. Shipman, but I might need it quick, he said. To his surprise, Marty buried her face in her hands and started to weep. Oh geez, look ma'am, I'm damned sorry about this. It's just that we had to have your husband's help for Farmer. I hope you understand that we wouldn't really have hurt you. You're Kelly's parents, and I really like Kelly a lot. I hope so, she whispered. Dear Lord, I hope so, Cody. I hope you like her enough to do something for Kelly that in this horrible world, it seems that only you can do, or will do. Huh? Asked Cody. Dear God, forgive me for what I'm about to do. Cody, ever since I saw you and your friends with those guns and I knew who you were, well, don't be embarrassed about putting that machine gun or assault rifle or whatever it is on my coffee table. I'd like to kiss it, actually. Marty laughed. No, that's not me being kinky. Cody, normally I wouldn't ask you something embarrassing like this, but do you more than like my daughter? Do you love her? Yes, he told her simply. Marty looked at him with all the despair in the world in her eyes. Then avenge her, she cried in agony. A few minutes later, he went into the den where Kelly was staring at the flickering screen in the dark. She had the sound muted. He sat down on the leather couch beside her and carefully leaned the AK against one corner of it, muzzle pointing away, and then spoke to her. Aye, he said. I think I always knew, said Kelly softly. There was always something different about you. You were always so gentle and polite with me. You spoke to me like a man, not just a high school kid with half his mind in my pants, and the other half still on his skateboard and his computer games. It was a subtle thing, but I noticed. I could tell that you were a lot deeper than you let on to be, and I admit, it fascinated me. I just never knew how to say anything to you about it. I kept hoping that you would decide to tell me what was going on with you. I know you love me. Said anything about that, he replied, not bothering to deny. No, dear, but I picked up on the signs, she said with a little smile. I knew you wanted me like all the others, but you never came on to me. I think you're the only guy I've ever met over the age of 15 who never did. Why didn't you try? You might have been surprised by the result. Heck, I might have been surprised by the result. I wasn't just looking for an hour with you in the back of that Explorer, Kel, he told her with a shrug. What I want from you is something I can never have, and most likely never from anybody else. There was no point in my starting something I couldn't finish. Yes, I like you. I won't say I love you because that word simply isn't appropriate to anything to do with the world I live in. If things were different, I would have made an effort to win you somehow, but they weren't. I am who I am, and you are who you are. He was silent for a while. Your mom told me what happened to you today at school. Ironically, it was only this afternoon that Nightshade and me got permission from our captain to kill Newman. We were too late, and I will go to my grave regretting that. But it will be taken care of, for what it's worth. Soon. Nightshade? Asked Kelly. That's Emily's volunteer name, not Patty Hearst. That was a joke. Yes, dear, I got that. And what's yours? She asked. Just Cody Brock. I never had volunteer handle. Why not? She asked curiously. Emily is Nightshade and Nigel is Jumping Jack Flash, and I really don't think Farmer Brown's first name is Farmer, and I heard you call your captain Bobby Bells. Sounds to me like you guys pass out the neat nicknames along with your secret decoder rings if you have them. I was an It Takes a Village kid, he told her. They took my name once, my father's name and his father's before him. When I ran away, I decided I would never let them take my name again. Well, it's sweet of you to want to avenge my honor, as our ancestors would have said, but it isn't worth you getting killed over, she said. I disagree. I risk getting killed every day, said Cody. And never with better reason. Are you with Emily now? Asked Kelly. I mean, what do you two do together when you're not going to church or shooting up shopping malls? And what the hell was the story on that kidnapping deal in June? Cody chuckled. Oh, that was just a glitch in a minor operation that kind of developed a life of its own. Long story. You mean, do we pass our nights in wild abandoned passion, in between manning the revolutionary barricades and shooting people? No. Believe me, we have other things to occupy our time. The closest we've ever come to getting physical is when she tried to stab me once. Huh? Part of that long story I mentioned. No, we're not together like you mean, but in a way we are. We're comrades and we face the same enemy, the same death if we're caught, and every day our lives depend on one another. In that way, yeah, we're together in a far closer way than anyone can ever be, after a little backstage snogging with Craig Crabtree. Ooh, touché, she said. Cody, really, this thing with Newman, it's very odd, but right now I honestly don't care if he lives or dies. I just feel dead inside. I can't think about the future. I can't think about acting. I don't even think I'll dream anymore for a while. Everything seems to be shut off inside me right now. That's the worst part of it, said Cody, nodding. It feels like a vampire attacked you and sucked your soul away. Well, that's not a bad description, but with all due respect, dear, how the hell would you know? Kelly inquired. I know. Kelly, I'm going to tell you something I've never told anybody. Something I never thought I would ever discuss with another human being. He took a deep breath. I told you I was an It Takes a Village kid. I was 8 years old. They sent my dad to prison, and they took my sister away to wherever the hell they took her, and then they sold me. To Jews, down in San Francisco. Now you know why I don't exactly have any love for the chosen ones. My stepfather was a Jew with a capital J, who gave me these constant bombastic lectures on Jewish ethics and moral duties. And yada yada yada. My stepmother was a very nice Gentile broad with a great body and a temperature IQ. Plus, I had 2 stepsisters. Karen was 2 years older than me, and Leah was 5 years older, so they would have been 13 and 16 respectively. That's when it started, when I was 11. Both of them came to my room one night after everyone was in bed, and they told me they wanted to play some special games with me. I wasn't a naive kid. I'd had sex education even in the yeshiva school, and so I understood what games they wanted to play. They made it clear that if I didn't go along, they would claim to my step-parents and the police that I had been the one coming to their room with the games in mind. So we played, only it wasn't normal sex. I think I can count on my fingers the times anything normal figured in these little sessions that sometimes went on until dawn. I won't get into any more detail. Most of it makes me want to vomit, even now, years later. Okay, I know the male-on-female rape dynamic is different, and I know what happened to you is more violent and terrible, but in my case it went on for years, regularly, until Leah was in college and engaged to be married. Yet still she came with Karen to my room. Until I ran away. So I just want you to know, Kelly, that yes, I have some idea of how you feel. As much as a man can have, I suppose. Didn't you ever even try to tell your stepfather or stepmother the truth? Asked Kelly, fascinated. You still don't know everything, said Cody softly. Early on, when it started happening, I decided to tell Larry, and if those two bitches lied about it and accused me, then so be it, but something happened. Nights are usually foggy in San Jose, but one night, soon after the games began, there was a very bright moon outside. I was lying on my back on the bed while the girls did what they were doing, when I heard the door to my room creak a little. I turned my head to the left, and in the moonlight I saw my stepfather's face protruding around the edge of the door frame, looking into the room, watching us. Thick Coke bottle glasses, nose and frizzy hair and all. It looked like those old World War II Kilroy was here cartoons. But it wasn't funny. It was ghastly because, you see, his face as he watched us around the door was down on the floor, like some hideous ball that was about to roll into my room. He must have been lying full length on the hall floor outside, and occasionally I got a glimpse of what appeared to be his shoulders, and they were bare. I don't know if he was actually naked, but he wasn't wearing a shirt anyway. "You're really creeping me out, Cody," whispered Kelly in horror. "Obvious that it was Larry who had set the whole thing up," Cody said. "He must have. The girls surely knew his eyesight was as good as mine." "Why?" asked Kelly. "What kind of perv would do that?" We never spoke about it. He knew I saw him that night. He was watching us close enough, and he must have known that he'd been seen, but he never said anything, ever. What would go on in a man's mind to make him do something like that, I don't know. But I quickly decided that as bad as things were, any attempt on my part to force it into the open would make it 10 times worse. Now I'm sure it had something to do with my being a Gentile and the son of a man who had gone to prison for hate crime and was classified as a Nazi. "What did you do?" asked Kelly, fascinated. I looked away and the games went on that night and other nights. But I never looked at the door again. No matter what the girls and I were doing, I always made sure I never faced the door to my room while we did it. One more thing. From little things that Karen and Leah let slip over the years, I knew that on certain nights they weren't in my room. They were in Larry's room with him and Gina, doing a foursome with variations. Those two didn't sleep in their own beds much. So don't tell me that Newman's death won't make you feel better, Kelly, because I know, I promise you, it will be taken care of. He stood up. "I'll go see how Farmer's doing. We need to be gone from here. I don't want the fatties to catch us in your house, or they'll kill all of you too once they realize your dad has helped a wounded volunteer." Shipman agreed that Farmer Brown could be released. He even lent Brown a shirt against the night chill. "Thank you again, Doctor," said Cody. "And you, Kelly, and Mrs. Shipman for the supper and for your patience. Again, I apologize for this intrusion. Dr. Shipman, as soon as we have some kind of open offices in the city, please feel free to send the NVA a bill. I promise you, it will be paid. Now I'd like to ask you one more favor. I'd like to ask if you would say nothing at all to anyone about our being here tonight. There's no good purpose to be served by speaking of this incident. If you call the FBI or Homeland Security, you'll get on the wrong side of the feds for having helped us, even at gunpoint, and, although we ourselves would never repay your kindness with harm, there are some in the NVA who would consider it informing, and you don't want that. Kelly, I am assuming that drama school will continue, although I don't know who's going to want to see those stupid one-acts with a revolution going on in the streets outside. But I ask that you keep our little secret when we get back in class, Kelly. You know why. There's something we need to take care of." "And that would be?" asked Dr. Shipman. "I think you know, sir," said Cody, looking at him steadily. Shipman looked away. "Yes, I know. And to my shame, I have to admit that I want it to happen. We won't say anything about your visit here tonight. I suppose that when it comes right down to my own family, my veneer of civilization is no thicker than yours, and all I want is vengeance against the monster who hurt my child. I'm a savage, just like you." "Oh, no, that won't do at all," said Jack Flash. "Niggers are savages, Doctor. We are barbarians." A much braver and more noble article. As they were driving away in the Cadillac, Emily asked him what was that all about. "I noticed your little in time with Kelly in the den. What is it we have to take care of at school?" "Newman," said Cody. "The son of a bitch raped Kelly this afternoon after class." "I'm sorry, Cody," said Nightshade sincerely. "Possibly make it a foursome?" asked Nigel Moore. "That is a lovely lady indeed, and I would consider it a privilege to assist particular Sheeny dead. Oh, I say, there's a thought. Any chance of a good old English topping?" "A what?" asked Brown. "A hanging," explained Nigel enthusiastically. "The old Tyburn ticket. Make this Red Sea pedestrian dance Danny Deever a Jew lynching," laughed Brown. "The old Leo Frank trick." Cody mulled it over. Yeah, that catwalk in the auditorium ought to take the weight of a body. I don't know if Bells will go for something that exotic, but we can at least make a plan and run it by him. But there's a problem. Nightshade and I are still on special intelligence assignment, unless they decide to call it off now, and going to that stupid drama class and listening to that Kike spout off about Stanislavski and the method may be essential to maintaining our cover with those people at the Assembly of God. Jesus, how long do you think the school can keep on with this summer school gig anyway, trying to pretend that nothing has changed? Asked Emily. Hopefully long enough for you to make your acting debut as a duck-billed platypus, said Cody. I was so looking forward to your opening night, said Farmer Brown from the back seat. I was going to play the up front and applaud, he added wistfully. Cody drove slowly, and along the way back to Medina they watched for signs of the street fighting they had heard from all over the area. The bulk of it seemed to be over. Here and there were burning vehicles, some fatpo and some civilian, and shattered glass and debris filled the streets, but they didn't see any more bodies. The streetlights were still on in most places, and the houses were all dark in that they had their porch lights turned off and their window shades pulled down. But through the shades could be seen the lambent glow of television screens. Unbelievable. History is happening right on their doorsteps, and these people are all inside watching it on CNN, growled Cody, shaking his head. They're all watching Fox News if they're Republicans, and CNN if they're Democrats, said Emily. All the Assembly of God people watch CBN and 700 Club religiously, of course, no pun intended. We need to try and catch up on what Pastor Renfield and Billy Benbow said on the tube tonight, Cody, so we can mention it in church. We need to let them know we're good Christians, and in a crisis. A good Christian always turns to the pastor to be told what to do. A Judeo-Christian does, honey, yes, said Brown. A Christian turns to the Bible. I didn't know you were religious, Farmer, said Jack Flash. I'm not, the wounded man replied. My wife was. As they approached the NVA safe house in Medina through the empty neighborhood, they came to a crude but bulky street barricade, which had been built under a streetlight using what appeared to be a picnic table, lawn furniture from nearby houses, garbage cans and plastic recycling tubs off the street, and part of a chain-link fence which had been ripped up from somewhere. Behind the barricade was a large fatpo truck, but even as they pulled up they could see a man busy with several cans of spray paint, covering over the federal insignia, and spraying onto the doors a crude target like rondel in green, white, and blue. A Northwest tricolor flag was rammed on its staff down into the junk on the homemade barrier. Looks like they're already making use of those fatty vehicles we impounded at Eastgate, said Cody. There was a crude sign spray-painted on plywood, barely readable in the dim light, NVA, stop or be shot. Cody slowed the Cadillac, and a volunteer in civilian clothes he had never seen before approached the car with his Kalashnikov at the ready. Another couple of volunteers covered him from the open roof of the truck with the M60 machine gun, which up until that evening had been U.S. government property. Cody rolled down the window. We're ENVA, he called out. A company, number 3 Seattle Brigade. Yeah, got the password? Asked the armed man. Ragnarok, said Cody. Okay, said the rebel. We're with Slim Jim and E Company. You guys heading back to the brigade HQ? Yes, we have a wounded man. Farmer Brown? Yeah, we heard. How you doing, Farmer? The man called into the back seat. Frosty, thanks to my personal posse here, replied Farmer. You're Jason Miller from the phone company, right? Remember you. How's Slim Jim doing? He's a captain now, like Bells, said Miller. I guess now we're in an open war, we'll all get promotions. I want to be an Obergruppenführer. What's that in American? Asked Farmer. No idea. It just sounds cool. We had a local quack I know patch Farmer up, but we still want Mary Beth to look at him, said Cody. How's it been going tonight? Any fatties around? Not for an hour or so, said Comrade Miller carelessly. The commandant told us to set up these barricades to guard the approaches to the safe house, to make sure if there's an attack on the headquarters they get some warning, but I don't think Fatty's got the stones for it. They can dish it out, but they never could take it. Heard on the news that they're flying in some fatty general to try and get them to pull back and establish the truce that Bimbo Chelsea was talking about on TV tonight. I heard him broadcasting a while ago, telling the fatties they've made their point with their so-called protest. Protest, my ass. They stuck out their arm and they got it chewed off, is what. You drive careful going into HQ. Some of the guys are still a bit psyched on adrenaline, and that Cadillac looks a little official. Anybody shoots it up, there will be hell to pay, said Cody. It belongs to Bobby Bells. We're all expendable, but so much as scratch the paint on this caddy and you sleep with the fishes. Back at the safe house without further mishap. After the NVA field medic Mary Beth checked out Farmer Brown, Shipman knows his stuff. Not much I can do for him that hasn't already been done, and I'd say he'll be okay. I have been told that we are actually going to more or less move in and take over one of the local hospitals and use that for all our wounded, as soon as things calm down enough and we can get the fat pos back in their cages, so he'll be sent there for recovery whenever that happens. I'll change his dressing before we send him over, but he should be back on his feet in a couple of weeks. I gather from the flag out front and the party-down atmosphere inside that this safe house is no longer maintaining secrecy, commented Cody. Yeah, tonight we make like the queers and come out of the closet, said Mary Beth. Someone actually hung another sign cut from a cardboard box on the front door of the mansion, written in magic marker, that read, Northwest Volunteer Army, No. 3 Seattle Brigade HQ. Please wipe feet before entering. Someone else had gotten up onto the roof, run up a tricolor, and then turned one of the lawn spotlights shining onto it so the rebel flag was visible in the night. The house was full of people now, running around the rooms, sitting on all the available furniture and on the floor, sleeping in all the beds, and gabbing with one another out on the floodlit lawn in total disregard of the possibility of a sudden hail of bullets from the surrounding darkness. There were weapons stacked in every available corner, and the garage had been turned into a full-scale armory and auto body shop where several Fatpo Humvees were being resprayed with NVA rondels and insignia. There were people Cody had never seen before sitting in corners banging on laptops, talking on cell phones, and the big living room was occupied by officers who were poring over maps spread all over the tables. Christ, I never realized there were so many of us, said Cody to Emily, shaking his head. Everyone who wasn't talking seemed to be eating. There was food, paper plates containing bits and pieces of food, and food containers everywhere, as well as what seemed like hundreds of plastic soda bottles in various stages of consumption. There were also big, huge piles of McDonald's burgers and sandwiches and fries in the kitchen, heaped up next to the microwaves, as well as Chinese and subs and pizza. This would be a truly American revolution, fueled on junk food. From No. 2 Brigade, Ted went back to the food court at Eastgate and cleaned it out along with the other burger counter hands to feed the NVA on this momentous night, said Eddie Hagen. Is there any order in this chaos? Cody asked Hagen. Is anybody in charge? Yeah, it's a bit more organized than it looks, Hagen told them. We got a rota system, 4 hours out on the street, 4 hours back here, or in another safe house where they can catch up on shoot-eye, but nobody is sleeping. They're all watching it go down on CNN. I think maybe some of the guys are hoping to fulfill the great American ambition of seeing themselves on TV. How are we doing? Asked Emily. Are we winning? Hagen laughed. The sitch is still kind of fluid, but yeah, we've given the feds a good bitch slap. Our crew at Eastgate turned in the best performance yet, but the fatties seem to have been caught by surprise at the level of resistance. I think we've killed at least 20 of them besides that big bunch we whacked in the mall. There's been another interesting development as well. In several cases that we know of, local citizens who were being terrorized by Fatpos took matters into their own hands, brought out whatever guns they had hidden away, and opened fire on their asses. Plus, there have been reports of some of the few remaining non-whites in Seattle getting attacked and chased down the street by white gangs. Everybody heard the president's speech and everybody understood. The word has gotten out that the times they are a-changin'. Bells has got 'em lined up down at the mall wanting to join the volunteers, and it's 2 in the morning. It will be really interesting to see how the white population reacts now that the lid is off and they can stand up and say nigger again. The 2 teenagers went into the crowded den and watched TV for a while. It had been hours since the president's speech, and yet the cable news network talking heads were still screaming at the top of their lungs about it. The general tenor of the reaction was sheer, utter incredulity. Commentators both liberal and neoconservative were literally spluttering and stuttering. Red Morehouse wandered in for one of his periodic visits to check up on what was going out via the media, and he chuckled with delight. Actually, this idea that the entire North American continent is some kind of gigantic single political and social entity and destined to be ruled from Washington, D.C., is a very old one, even predating the destruction of the Constitution in 1861, he explained. Back in the 19th century, it used to be called Manifest Destiny. That's what the War of 1812 was really all about. It had nothing to do with Britain impressing American sailors. It was a straightforward land grab. The United States wanted to conquer Canada. Fortunately for the Canadians, gross incompetence was already an established feature of American government and military strategy. Yeah, all these American yahoos can claim that the United States never lost a war, said Emily. Bullshit. The U.S. lost at least a couple of times that I know about. The Canadians and Brits kicked American ass in 1812 and burned the White House to the ground. The Bolsheviks defeated American troops when they tried to invade Russia in 1919. And I have never understood how any moron can claim that Vietnam was an American victory. It's pretty clear the United States is also going to be run out of the Middle East eventually, added Morehouse. But this idea that the North American continent always has to be in one piece politically speaking is almost a religion with these people. The fact that a president of the United States is willing to sit down with separatists of any kind is astounding to them. They can't wrap their minds around it. Every other continent on the face of the earth has more than one nation on it, said Cody. Even Northern Australia was handed to the Gooks recently and became South Aryan. Why exactly should North America be any different? After a while, Cody and Emily got bored with watching all the gibbering Negroid and liberals and blow-dried neocons on TV, and they went and found Commandant Dortmunder, who was in the kitchen pouring out the last cup of coffee from the coffee maker. Several other officers new to Cody were sitting around the table talking on cell phones or among themselves. "Sir, do you have a minute?" he asked. "What do you want me and Nightshade to do now? If it's all right, we'd like to be put on one of those duty rosters for street patrols, or else go back over to Eastgate Mall and rejoin Captain DeBella's team." Said Dortmunder, thinking while he pulled out a paper filter and made another pot of coffee. "According to the news media, all public school functions have been canceled due to the unsettled conditions, as they put it, so you don't have to go into that silly drama class tomorrow, or I suppose I should say this morning. Kind of like a snow day, I guess." "That's good," said Nightshade. "Once you've been an urban gorilla, it's kind of hard to go back to being a duck-billed platypus." "Should we report to Captain DeBella back at the Eastgate Mall?" asked Cody again. "I hear he's running a regular recruiting station for the NVA out there now." Normally I'd say yes, but there's still this church investigation thing you two are involved with," said Dortmunder. "You have to remember, Cody, that organizationally speaking, Nightshade isn't part of a company. She's third section, and until I hear otherwise, we don't want her doing anything that might get her recognized and blow her cover. Technically, you two shouldn't even have gone on that expedition to Eastgate, you know. I didn't realize you were going when Bells put together his crew. Although I suppose even if I'd caught it in time, I wouldn't have had the heart to stop you. You're still young enough to think war is an adventure. Well, that's spilt milk. But it's now more important than ever that we find out if Zog is trying to set up some kind of counter-revolutionary movement through these holy joes. So I want you and Nightshade to stick here and stay out of sight. Don't worry, we'll find something for you to do. And then if they reopen the schools and start that silly drama class up again, you'll have to try and resume your life as American teenagers. Although God knows how long that's going to be possible. I know it's hard for you to go back to being ducks after a night like tonight." "Duck-billed platypus," said Emily. "This is important. If something is in fact moving in the shade at these churches, then now is the time the government. Are we staying here in this house, sir? Asked Cody. Dortmunder shook his head. No, this place is in the middle of a residential area, and it would be hard to defend if we were attacked, plus there would be a lot of civilian casualties. The NVA is coming out of hiding, and we are actually going to set up a proper brigade headquarters in public. We haven't decided where yet. Maybe even in the mall you guys captured tonight. By the way, that's getting a big play on the media. Bells was able to get the radio equipment functioning again, and we've already got some guy from the Agitprop Department of 3rd Section down there broadcasting official NVA statements, and some kind of music even. Wagner, Hank Williams, and old skinhead rock CDs, I think. An odd combination of tunes by which to bring a new world into being. Anyway, we'll be moving our digs to somewhere, so I suppose I should put you guys to packing up all the gear and getting it ready to move. With any luck, this may be the last time we have to do a covert E and E. Suppose I better at least check in with my mom, said Emily. She'll be going crazy wondering where I am and what I'm. Tell her you got kidnapped again, suggested Cody. I don't mean to pry, comrade, but I just have to ask. Does your mother honestly have no idea at all what you're involved in? Inquired Dortmunder curiously. I mean, how is that possible? My mom acquired a habit of not asking questions when she lived with my father, replied Emily carefully. Look, don't get me wrong, she's not a bad person and I love her in my own way, but she's like a lot of Americans. She's just kind of opted out. She doesn't want to know about anything, because she's come to understand that knowledge is frightening and it makes demands of her. Demands she can't handle, so she deliberately avoids it. She knows I spend a lot of time away from home, but then so does she when she checks into a motel for a week and wallows in wine and, well, other stuff. In a way, what she does is just as potentially dangerous as what I do. I'm likely to get shot or arrested and tortured, and she's likely to crash her Lexus on the freeway while she's smashed, or get strangled with a belt or a pillowcase by some freak she picks up in a bar or a truck stop. I guess you could say we both name our poison. Then she comes home again and wallows in Jesus down at the Assembly of God for a couple of months, before she does it again. At some point we seem to have worked out an unspoken arrangement. We just don't ask. Utterly American, said Dortmunder, shaking his head. Sir, in the American dysfunctional stakes you know I got that beat, said Cody grimly. Is there any white kid born in my generation who does not have some kind of horrible, sick and twisted family history? There's simply no such thing as normal anymore. The Brady Bunch are dead, if they ever were real at all. Did an America like that ever really exist? And the actor who played Mr. Brady was a faggot who died of AIDS, Emily reminded him. Red Morehouse had come into the kitchen just in time to overhear the latter part of the conversation. Oh yes, there was once goodness and health in America, he assured them. So long ago that no one remembers. But yes, there was once a world where Tom and Huck played pirates on the river, and Penrod and Sam played detective. And yes, it is possible to go back. Human beings can do anything they want to, if the will is strong enough. You two kids grew up in hell, but your children won't have to. What you're doing tonight is making sure of that. Make no mistake, guys. This is the good fight we're fighting here. Joe, I need to talk to you about something. We're going to be setting up a kind of district command for the Seattle area, which will serve as a pilot project for the rest of the homeland, and... I'll call Mom and leave a message, said Emily to Cody, dialing on her cell phone. She probably got into the Beaujolais before I left for school this morning, and most likely she's been drunk all day. She may even have missed the whole thing. Congratulations on the Republic's first open military victory, General, said Morehouse with a smile. Hey, don't congratulate me, said Barrow admiringly. Bells and his boys gave a bravura performance at Eastgate Mall, no question. But Carter Wingfield and the new Special Service were the ones who really shone tonight. They not only drove the fatties off the streets, but the Redmond police station is now in our hands as well as the Fatpo barracks in Renton. We have captured a mammoth shitload of weapons and ammunition at both places, and also freed over 100 white prisoners, most of whom were arrested and dragged in just tonight. Some of them had already been subjected to various kinds of abuse. All of it legally impeccable under the Patriot Act, of course. Barrow's face assumed a scowl. The SS also found their interrogation room in Renton, and we've got a nice little selection of instruments of torture we can display for the media. Electric prods, dentist's drills, special pliers for ripping off fingernails and toenails, slow strangulation collars, and a steel chair with a thing like a vice grip built recessed into the seat, and a crank on the back of the chair that tightens it. They call it the ball crusher. Nuff said. I might add that all of these charming artifacts still have their Israeli manufacturer's mark stamped into them. Hey, when it comes to torture and human degradation, you can't beat Israeli expertise, said Morehouse dryly. That's another thing we need to do. Draw up a list of those media personnel who seem to be the least biased against us, and start building a relationship with them by giving them the juiciest stories. This one would be a good start. Sure, Mom, said Emily over in her corner. Yeah, he's here with me. No, Mom, we're not committing carnal sin. It's just that Cody was scared I might get hurt on the streets if he let me come home, and so we're over here at this other guy's house. What's his name? Simpson. Bart Simpson. You remember, he's this kid from school we know. I told you about him. She drunk? Asked Cody sympathetically, suppressing the urge to laugh. And we go to school with Bart Simpson now? She's so worried that we might be screwing that it never occurred to her that we might be killing people. Emily replied in a whisper, her hand over the phone. Then she turned back to it. Huh? Who wants to… okay. She put her hand over the receiver again, then said quickly and urgently to Morehouse, Sir! That Army Captain Rigenthal from the church, the one we're supposed to be watching. He's been looking for Cody. He called my house trying to find him. 6th, everyone in the New Republic is free to worship as they please. They are not free to commit treason and then hide behind religion to escape